Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button below and welcome to the gang.
Somebody lied to her several times and told her that she was fly, hot, and sexy and beautiful.
So I get a lot of questions asking about my coding journey. How did I learn to code? How did I get my first software role without a degree, without a technical background? And I talk about that in a separate video. This video is more about some of the things that I wish I knew before actually getting into the industry. So first things first, coding is hard. Programming in general is hard. A lot of tech roles are hard. It is difficult, okay? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Coding for me, it was a struggle. Like, I struggled to pick up a lot of concepts. Like, a lot of things were just not clicking at all. And it used to frustrate me so much because I used to feel like, is my brain broken or something? Like, what's not clicking?
What's not clicking?
For the most part, do not be surprised if you find coding hard. That is normal. It's not always easy for everyone, and that's okay. For me, it took a long, guys, it took a long time for coding to start clicking for me. A long time. Here's the difference. It's accessible to everyone because I do believe that you don't really need a degree or you don't need to, have a technical background from when you're 5 years old to get into the industry. There's no barriers in that sense for me. Like, it's not the most inaccessible thing to learn. It's just manage your expectations a bit and don't be so hard on yourself. Don't let some of these online courses make you feel like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna breeze through these 8 weeks and then after that I'll get a job and everything will be cool and I'll just learn and it's all fun. Because what will happen is you'll start coding, you get a bunch of errors and you're gonna get frustrated because you don't know how to approach things because you're so new to it. Programming is hard and that's okay. Another thing is, you don't have to learn everything at once. I was trying out everything and my lack of patience when it came to learning how to code, because I used to think, oh my gosh, coding shouldn't be that hard. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's saying like, oh, I'm learning to code, so it should be fine. I was trying to learn everything at once and I would frustrate myself because it's like, why am I not picking up everything? How come when I was in the creative scene, like I picked up things so quickly? Why is it now that I'm so slow? Like, I used to get so frustrated, and what I would find myself doing is that if I'm stuck on one thing, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe let me try something else. Or maybe like, let me try this language or this framework, or, let me pick up this. And then the next minute I'm just like completely overwhelmed. I'm back to square one and I'm stuck. And then I'm like, yeah, this is not for me. Do not be like me that jumps around everywhere. Yeah, just don't do it. Just don't do it. You're playing yourself, you're setting yourself up. It's not worth it. Speaking of not knowing everything, you don't need to know everything about the language that you're learning to start building stuff. And that's something I really wish I had known earlier, and it's something I wish I took a bit more seriously earlier. You don't have to know every single thing about the framework you're learning, the language you're learning, the structure. You don't need to know all of it. Yeah. If anything, when you're doing a project, you learn things in a way that you wouldn't learn if you were just following along with a tutorial. So I would definitely recommend, like, once you've got the basics down of whatever language that you're picking to learn, just stick with it and do some projects to help you remember those concepts, and you'll come across like new things that you wouldn't have picked up straight away, and that just helps you with your learning and it reinforces the things that you already started learning. So I would definitely recommend, like, don't be put off if you don't know every single thing about the language. It doesn't really matter for the most part what language you pick to learn first, unless you are looking for a specific type of role within the tech industry. There isn't one right way to learn how to code. There isn't one way to learn how to code. That's when you're gonna have to prioritize things. But for the most part, it doesn't really matter. I would personally recommend, if you're like completely new, you haven't got any technical background, if you're a bit more creative, I would recommend web development, just because the concepts are much easier to grasp. You get to see a lot of what you're doing. So things like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, those are things that when it works, you can see the result of. In terms of like a backend language, I would recommend Python. That's what I started off with. It's the main backend language that I know. And I would recommend that because the syntax is very beginner friendly. A lot of concepts are packaged quite nicely so that it's easier to understand for people that are beginners. So I would recommend that personally. But if you are someone that has a bit more of a technical experience, or you're you're studying computer science, so you're already exposed to a lot of different languages and functional programming and stuff like that, then, you know, it doesn't really matter for the most part. The key is to keep sticking at it and keep persistent at it. Indirecting myself. This one, I really wish someone like drilled this into my head. Like, in hindsight, when I think about it, it is common sense. If you are not very technical by nature, I would have taken some time to really understand computers, how they work, understand how the internet works, like really understand it beyond the basics. I would have taken that into account a bit more before jumping really deep into coding. You don't have to, it's probably optional, but I personally, for me, I found that when I understood a little bit more than what I already know about computers, when I understood a bit more about how the internet works and things like that, like I feel like it made it a little bit easier. And another thing that I really would recommend, and it's not the most funnest thing to do for me anyway, is go back over some concepts in maths, like especially some algebra stuff. I don't know why, but that's helped me a lot, like just a little bit of a refresher. I have found that when I went back to the basics of algebra and just recapped a few things, it helps. It really does help. I think it just helps with like the steps and how you break down the problem that you're trying to solve, because ultimately programming is about problem solving. So it kind of makes sense, but it wasn't obvious to me at the time. I just wanted to learn to code. I just wanted to know everything, you know. I just wanted to just blink, see myself working at Google, and that's it. This one, yeah, and I'm not very good at this, and I still need to work on it. Like, it's one of my weaknesses. Learning how to ask for help sooner rather than later. There is a difference between, oh yeah, this is a problem and I really want to tackle this, and when I solve it, it's going to feel great, versus, crap, I'm actually stuck and I don't know what to do and I'm going to lose it. Like, I'm actually going to lose it.
I'm going to lose it.
There's a difference. Okay, and I find myself doing the second one more than the first one. So if you are stuck, like you are genuinely stuck and you're confused and you don't know how to go about solving the problem, ask for help. What I find myself doing is that I will work on something and I will get so stuck into it, and then when something breaks, I just start panicking. I start overthinking everything. I start overcomplicating things. I've got 1,000,001 tabs open with just Stack Overflow, all these answers that I'm Googling. Then it gets to a point where I don't even know what I'm Googling, so I don't even know what to Google on Google, and then it's just like a big fat mess and I'm stuck. The normal thing to do would be ask someone for help, but do I? No. I decide to be even more stubborn and upgrade to watching YouTube videos to try and solve the problem, which is basically a video version of the stuff that I'm seeing on Stack Overflow, which never made sense to me in the first place. And then I just get stuck in this big, massive hole, and I just get frustrated and annoyed, and the problem is still not solved. So don't be like me and ask for help. This one is based on me actually working. One thing that I wish someone had told me is that, yes, boot camps are great, and I'm going to do a separate video on boot camps anyway, so stay tuned for that. But to sum up, boot camps are great, like I learned a lot, but really and truly, most of your programming knowledge and just your technical skill knowledge in general, you're going to learn on the job. It is what it is. Like, you get that hands-on experience, you're working in a team, you're working with people, you're collaborating, you're delivering requirements. You're not going to get that sort of experience elsewhere. Like, even if practice projects, they're great, but there's just something about working in a team, in a working environment, where it just is different. Like, you actually pick up a lot more. What I found was that pretty much like 70% of what I know now, I learned on the job. Speaking of working, I have noticed, because now for me, it's been just over a year, so like a year and 1 month or something, since I started my first tech role. Programming is very mentally draining. It's exhausting. It's physically exhausting sometimes. And, you know, I think I underestimated how draining it can be. Like, it makes sense why programmers are always tired. It makes sense why, you know, for some companies, they pay really well, because it's like, it's a very demanding job. It requires a lot of mental strength and a lot of concentration and focus. Like, it takes a toll on you. One thing I wasn't prepared for, I mean, I was, but I wasn't, I think I was aware of it, but I didn't really prepare for how much it would impact me, was literally the lack of women in this industry. Like, it's actually mad. Like, I knew the diversity rates were bad. I read the stats. Like, I've read all these articles and I'm like, wow, that's really bad. But when you're actually in that environment and you're thinking, what? Like, it's really male dominated. And I thought, you know what? If I get along with people, it should be fine. And it's like, and I have mentioned this in previous videos as well, like, as much as I get along with my colleagues and I get along with my team and my managers, they're really supportive, they really do help me. And I'm not saying this just for the sake of saying it, like, I genuinely mean it. Like, I actually do have a really good team, and I'm very, very, very lucky, I would say, to have my first ever tech role where I've got such a supportive team. Like, I feel like I got lucky just based on hearing other people's experiences. I didn't realize how much of a mental toll it would take on me not seeing people that look like me in this industry. Like, I used to be in the film industry and the diversity there was already pretty rubbish. And I thought, you know what? I managed to deal with that. I managed to push through. I managed to, like, achieve great things there. You know, there's always going to be diversity problems, you know. It is what it is. Like, I already knew it was going to be bad because there's not a lot of women, let alone black women, let alone black, visibly Muslim women in the industry. So I kind of knew at the back of my mind, like, okay, Amina, be prepared to just be around loads of men because you're not going to see a lot of people like you, especially because I also don't work in London. So I kind of gave myself like a mental heads up, but oh, damn, like, sometimes it's just draining, like, every day in and out, and it's just, you're just around people that don't look like you. And it's not like they're being horrible to me. It's not like, you know, they're being mean to me or anything. They're actually really nice people. I like working with the people that I work with. It's just, it would be nice just having someone else that looks like me being in the same space as me. Like, I really underestimated it. And I think it's because I grew up in London most of my life. And I'm just like, even when I'm not around people in the workplace that look like me, at least I know outside of work, there'll be people I can mingle with that look like me. Whereas here, it's like, I live in a small town where majority white. I don't see a lot of people that look like me. And now I'm going into work with people that don't look like me. When you're seeing that over and over and over again, it can feel very isolating. And so that's something that I wish I really, really, like, I wish someone really sat me down and went like, Amina, it's really peak out here. Like, it's actually mad. However, the online community of women in tech is absolutely amazing. Like, the people that I've connected with on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Instagram has been amazing. Like, I've found so many visible Muslim women in general, black women, black people in general. It's been amazing. The online tech community within underrepresented groups, I can't lie, it's doing bits. It's amazing. I really love it. Now that we're in a lockdown, it's like, I already feel isolated and there's not a lot of people that I can reach out and drop two bants because they get it. It's hard. It was already hard enough in the office, and now we're in a lockdown. It's just a bit like, yeah, it's a bit of a sticky one, I can't lie. But yeah, that's something I wish I was prepared for a bit more. This is like a misconception that a lot of people have. Not all programmers are the same, and not everyone that works in the tech industry codes. There are a lot of roles that can be really beneficial for your career that do not require coding. And there is a lot of demand for those roles as well, especially in the UK anyway. I think there's this misconception that you have to be like a coding whiz to be able to enter the tech industry. No. In fact, a lot of people that I work with in my team don't code every single day. And regarding coding in your job role, for me, I don't code 8 hours of the day that I'm working. If anything, and I wish someone told me this earlier, most of what I'm doing in my day-to-day as a software engineer is not about coding. Coding is a tool to get the job done, to get to the solution. It's literally a tool that you're using to do what you need to do, whether it's passing data, whether it's building a website, whether it's, you know, setting up an API and requesting stuff. Coding is just there as a tool, as a mechanism to get to what you need to do. Most of my role is talking to people, planning, structuring, prototyping, going back to just double check on the requirements, making adjustments, trying to find the best way to approach the problem, testing things, more testing, testing again, crying over things breaking, wanting to smash up your laptop, testing, more testing, getting frustrated, getting to the solution, done. And coding is just a little fraction of that. Teeny bitty fraction of that. So if you are someone that wants to be a programmer, if you want to do like coding as a full-time job, do not expect to sit there for 8 hours a day coding non-stop, because it doesn't work like that, baby girl. It does not work like that. Speaking of working, coding, day-to-day life as a software engineer, I have learnt that it's okay to walk away. Walk away from the screen. When you're getting the sort of headaches where the front part of your forehead is bobbing up and down, walk away. When your eyes are starting to twitch and you're getting frustrated and you want to dash your laptop in the bin, walk away. When you're looking at your code to the point where lines are starting to blur and you're starting to like dream about your coding and your solutions, it's time to walk away from the screen. Walk away. Everything you own in a box to the left. You need to walk away from the screen. Sometimes just moving away from your screen, taking some time away and just going for a walk, getting some fresh air, as cliche as it sounds, it helps. Guys, there have been times where I've been stuck on something and panicking about it because I have a deadline, to the point where I'm having dreams. I'm having dreams where I'm frustrated and I'm stressing out about not being able to solve the problem. Walk away. Obviously, don't just be like, oh yeah, I'm stuck on this, and then just run off. This is more of like when you've been stuck on the same problem for so long and, you know, it's getting frustrating, just move away from the screen. Just move away. Just move away. It's okay. The code is not going to disappear. I mean, it could, but just walk away. There are times where I've been stuck on something and I just know it's like a small thing and it frustrates me so much. And I'll walk away from the screen, I'll take some time out, I'll come back and it's a typo. I'll come back and I've spelled function wrong. I'll come back and I've missed out a bracket or I've missed out a colon. Those colons. I've come back and the indentation's a bit messed up. And that's what happens most of the time. You're going to bump into a lot of errors. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to run into so many different errors and it gets a lot. But just learn to walk away sometimes. Speaking of errors, don't run away from your errors. Yeah, I know I said walk away from your screen when it gets too much, but don't underestimate what you can learn from those error messages that you get when something's not working or a test has failed. Like a lot of frameworks and languages nowadays, they've got really detailed error messages. So a lot of the times you can actually look at those error messages and it can kind of give you a clue of where you could be going wrong. And also because a lot of those error messages are now more detailed than way before, you can literally just copy and paste that error message and bung it on Stack Overflow, and there's probably someone who can explain the error in a more simple way. So yeah, pay attention to your error messages when you're coding, because sometimes it actually gives you the answer there. Sometimes it gives you the clue that you need. And a lot of the times you'll just find out, oh yeah, the indentation's wrong, missed out a bracket, spelled function wrong because I keep forgetting the C. Yeah, so seriously, pay attention to your error messages. So to end this video, I would just like to say, it's okay to feel overwhelmed when you're first starting to learn how to code. It's okay to feel overwhelmed when you're starting out in your first tech job. It's okay to feel like you're winging it, because trust me, a lot of people are winging it. A lot of people are winging it. Some of us just make it look good. It's actually okay to feel stuck. It's actually okay to feel overwhelmed when you're first learning how to code. There's also a lot of anxiety around the idea of being able to program. Like sometimes the idea is so mind-boggling that it actually makes you nervous and anxious, and that's a normal feeling as well. It's also very normal to not feel like you know what you're doing in your first tech role. It's also okay to feel like some days things are just not clicking. Some days things are clicking. You're not always going to have the most productive day when coding. Like there are days where things are just not clicking for me and I just feel like rubbish and I just decide, you know what, I'm just going to focus on some of the other tasks that don't require coding, or I'm just going to approach this from a different angle, or I'm just going to take a bit of a break and then come back to it a bit later. It's okay to feel like that. It's okay. Like I said, programming is not easy, but there are a lot of resources that make it easier for you to access the learning materials to give you the skills to code. That's the difference, and that's the difference that I've noticed. You know, programming can come easy to some, but not others, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up because you feel like things are not clicking. Don't feel like you're not smart enough or you're not good enough because certain coding concepts or just certain technical language don't make sense to you just yet. It takes a lot of time and hard work. Do not listen to those people that think that you can just, learn how to code for a few weeks, practice a few projects, and that's it, you know everything. It doesn't work like that, because when you've got senior developers, when you've got managers that are still Googling problems and solutions in your day-to-day work life, that's when I realized everyone's still learning. And plus, the tech industry is always changing. Languages and frameworks are always changing. Things are always being added. Things are always being upgraded. Things are always being removed. The way we work is always changing. And so don't expect to know everything at once. Like, I've only been in this industry, like as a job, I've only been at my first ever job, my first ever tech job, just over a year, literally. And my coding journey has only been like 2 years now, altogether, something like that. So I already know, like, I've just embraced and accepted the fact that I have so much to learn. There's so many things I don't know. There's so many things where I'm like, damn, should I know this now? Why don't I know this? And it's normal to feel like that. So yeah, I just want to end off by saying, don't be put off. Women, please, we need more of you. We need more women in the industry. Black women, Muslim women, the whole shebang, non-binaries, we need you all right? Because I'm bored out of my mind, and yeah, this industry needs you. There's so much potential in this industry. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't feel like just because you want to get into the tech industry that you have to code. Not all tech jobs are coding jobs, and that's perfectly fine. Don't be afraid to try new things. Stay persistent, because that's the only way you're going to go past that barrier. Because I have found that when I get stuck on something consistently, I tend to just shut away from it. And I feel like the more you avoid it, the more you stress about it. So don't give up so easily. And don't feel like there's an age limit to learning how to code. I feel like there's this misconception that, coding is for like young people in their 20s and whatnot. Like, you can be 50 plus and it could be the first time you write your first line of code. That's okay. Like, at the end of the day, a computer does what it tells you to do. It doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't care how big, small, large, whatever color you are. Equipping yourself with skills like that requires patience, requires persistence, requires determination, and requires time. It takes time to get good at what you do. Like, I definitely know that I'm not where I want to be in terms of my skill level and my skill set. Like, I have so much more to learn, and I've just kind of embraced the fact that I'm gonna be clueless a lot of the time, and that's just how I'm gonna start out. And hopefully over time things will start making a bit more sense. I start learning a few more things. I start, exploring a lot more. But it's normal, and you kind of just have to embrace that journey. So if you are someone that is trying to learn how to code, wants to get started but don't know where to start, I do have a Google Doc with all these free resources that I use. I'm gonna leave that in the description box below. I also have my tech journey video if you want to go and check that out, just to give a bit more context in how I actually got into the industry. And yeah, if you are watching this and you are looking for a sign to learn how to code or to explore the tech industry a bit more and what it has to offer, this is your sign. All right? The key is to get started. So I'll see you guys on the other side. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.